Hey you all, I'm also here to fellow dressmakers. You're welcome to another interesting tutorial. My name is Confidence. In this video, I'll be showing you how to make this beautiful corporate dress. It's a three-quarter gown with double keyhole at the shoulder and a stylish peplum. This dress is so beautiful as you can see, and it's also simple to make. Now if you want to see how I made this, make sure you watch this video to the very end, and let's get right into it.
Hello, you don't even know my name, but I am happy you came by.
So we'll start by drafting a pattern, and what I'll do here is to divide the largest part of my body into 2 plus extra 2 inches. So I'm working with a hip of 38 inches divided by 2, 19 plus extra 2, 21. But I'll just make it a round figure to be 22 inches. So I'm going to mark the 22 inches here like this, and then I'll get the midpoint of 11 inches from the top to the down of this pattern paper. So this way we get to have a space for the front bodies and then the back bodies. Okay, if you've been following me, you know that this is how I do my pattern or how I draft my pattern. Now I'll start from this top here and measure down to my armhole line, bust point, under bust, waistline, hip line, knee line, and then the other remaining part will be the full length. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and mark the same thing here just so I get a straight line: 8.5, 10.5, 13.5, 17 inches, and then 23.5 for the hip line, and the other part to be the knee line and then the full length. So I'll come here and measure my shoulder measurement divided by 2. I'll go down to the armhole length and I'll mark the same thing. Okay, then I'm going to connect it like this. Then I'm going to get the neckline. I'm using 3.5 for this, 3.5 by 3.5, 3.5 for the width, and then 3.5 for the depth. Then I'm going to curve it with my curve just like this. Okay, so I'm using a round neckline. Then I'm going to take the 1.5 for shoulder slope and connect it to the neck tip like that. Then the next thing I will do is to take the bust span. I'm working with 3.75 for the bust span. I'll mark it all the way to the down just to get a straight line, and that would be my bust span. That's nipple to nipple as some people know it. Then I'll come to the waistline and mark 0.75 on both sides. Then go to the under bust and mark 1 inch on both sides. And I just want to contour this. You can just do a regular dart, just the straight dart, but I just want to contour this, and I'm sure that you saw the result at the beginning of this video. So I'm going to curve it from the under bust to the bust point, and then I'll extend the dart leg to the waist line, the 0.75 on both sides of the bust span line. Then because this is the front pattern, I'm just going to extend it like this to the meet the hip line. Then I'll come to this part here and get the midpoint of this shoulder line and connect it to the bust point like so. And that is just to make our work easier. We'll come back to that. You can also tighten the upper chest, your over bust, but I don't want to do that on this pattern. I'm going to get my bust circumference divided by 4 plus extra 1 inch for allowance. Then I'll come to the waist, my waist divided by 4 plus the 1.5 for that plus extra 1 inch closing allowance. I'll do the same thing for the hip divided by 4 plus extra 1 inch allowance. Then you can choose to minus 2 inches from what you have on the hip, or you minus 6 inches from your hip circumference and then divide that by 4 to get the knee circumference. Don't forget to add your 1 inch or whatever allowance that you choose to add. Then I'm going to just curve it like so, connect the points like this. You can see how I'm placing the curve just to follow the body shape. Okay, it's as simple as that. Then this full length here, I have the same thing I have on the knee line. You can also minus ½ inch or 1 inch if you want it more pencil, right? The next thing I'll do now is to go up by 3 inches on this armhole line here, 3 inches. Then I'll come in by ½ inch. First, I'll use the straight part of my curve to connect it like so to the shoulder tip. Then I'll curve from that midpoint to my bust circumference divided by 4. Next, I'll take the bust dart. I'm using 1 inch because that's the difference between my front length and then the back length. If there is no difference, you can just ignore that part. Okay, then for the keyhole, you can decide to come up by 3 inches or 3.5, and that would serve as your over bust line, or you mark from the shoulder slope to where you want it to be. You can mark anything between 5 to 7 inches, especially if you don't want to show your cleavage. Then the next big thing is the wideness. Okay, you can just mark 1 inch on both sides of that midpoint line, or if you want to follow what you see on the thumbnail, you just come in by 1 inch from your neck tip here, 1 inch. Then on the side there, on that shoulder tip, you come in by ½ inch. That's exactly what you see on the thumbnail, but just follow your body shape or your body size, just so it's not too wide on that point. 1 inch on both sides is just fine. Okay, then I'm going to use my curve to give it this curve, because this is just the shape that I'm going for. If you want it wider, just go ahead and do it on that point. Then you can also tighten the over bust line if you want, but I don't want to, connect from the bust point to that keyhole line that you have there. It's not going to change anything, but I don't want to do that. Like I said, I just want to leave it. I just want to contour the under bust so that it fits properly on the bust area. But if you want to tighten it, just do it this same way that I'm showing you here if you want. But that means that the end point of this keyhole might be wider. Okay, take note of that. Just know what you want and go for it. But I'm going for what you see here. Now we'll go over to the back. The first thing I'll do is to take the shoulder measurement divided by 4. I'll mark the same thing on the armhole length and get the length just to have a straight line. Next, I'm going to mark the neckline of 3.5 by 3.5. I'm doing the same thing I did for the front neckline. I want it just that low. I don't want it too deep and not too high. Then I will mark 1 inch for the shoulder slope and connect it to the neck width. Now, I'm going to start from this top line here and go down to my half length. This time around is going to be 16 inches instead of 17 inches that we have on the front. And that's because we use the 1 inch difference as the bust dart. Okay, then I will mark the hip line and then the knee line. All of this line will be 1 inch above the one we have on the front. Okay, when I mark it out, you will see it. Then don't forget to mark the full length, minus 1 inch from what you have there. I almost forgot, but we'll get there. Next, I'm going to come on this waistline on the center back. I'll mark 1 inch. I'll come to the knee line again. I'll come in by 1 inch, just so we follow the shape of our body, the body curve. Then I'm going to use this curve like so and connect it from the neck tip to that 1 inch on the waistline. Then I will place my curve like this and connect it to the hip, and place my curve yet again like this to curve it to the knee line. 1 inch we came in from the knee line. Then from that knee line to the full length, it's just going to be straight. Okay, this way you're actually following the body contour and you're not going to have a hard time after you finish your dress. It's nothing serious. Then I'll start from this new center back line and take my measurement. Don't forget to add your allowance. I'm adding allowance today on my pattern. I don't usually do this, but I mean, why not? And after the measurement, I'll just go ahead and use my curve to connect the point. I'm not adding any dart for the back. I'm actually using a stretchy fabric, but for the front, I just want to go for a contour fit for the front, right? Then the reason why I'm forwarding this part is that I was just going back and forth with the hip line measurement. Then I finally got it right. I have my measurement there, but I was just marking something else. Can you see? My hip measurement divided by 4 plus extra 1. So I'm using this green now just so it's clear. Alright? I'll connect from the hip to the knee and then the knee to the full length. After that, I'll tighten the back chest line. I'll just go in by 0.25 from the midpoint of that armhole line and connect it to the neck shoulder tip and then curve it to my bust line like this, the armhole length. So now I'm just going to add my 1 inch zipper allowance on this part, following the curve, the existing curve that I already have here. So now we are done. We can now go ahead and cut this. Now to cut, the first thing you should do is to just separate the pattern, the front and then the back. But here I'm slashing the bust span line, then I'll just go ahead and separate the pattern, right? So I'll keep the back pattern aside, then I'll go ahead and close the bust dart. That 1 inch we use on the bust as the bust dart. I'll close it like so. Then I'll use my paper tape to tape it down just like this. Having done that, I'll go ahead and continue with the cutting. I'll just cut all the necessary parts. Don't forget to cut your shoulder slope or shoulder slanting, as some people know it. Now you can see that all the horizontal lines are matching up: the bust line, waistline, hip line, and then the knee line. So this is when I noticed that I did not minus the 1 inch on the back pattern. So I'll mark what I have from the knee to the full length on the front pattern, then I'll mark the same thing on the back just to have it accurate. And of course I'll cut it out. After cutting it out, to go ahead and transfer this to the fabric. And I'm using these two beautiful fabric, a pink and orange fabric. This pink one is a crepe material, and I have had this material since 2020. It's just a leftover material. Then this one too, I got it as bare material, and I have almost 1.5. It's not up to 1.5 here, but I'm just going to manage it. The two fabric are just one way stretch. They stretch just one way, and we are going to make it work for what we are going for. And then not forgetting to mention that this pink one is very thick compared to the orange one. So I'm gonna have to fold the fabric, and I placed the back pattern first, and then I added 2 inches at the hem as folding allowance, or just the length allowance. Every other part I'll just go ahead and cut the same thing I have on the pattern. We already added the needed allowance. Then don't forget, this is one way stretch, so make the stretchy part to be on the horizontal part of your body, the side, so that it will fit properly. It will extend in case of tomorrow. But it's just right that you make the stretchy part to be on your side when making your dress. Then notch the center, the waistline, for both the center back and then the side back. Now I've gone ahead to do the same thing for this pink one, and I pinned down the center front pattern on it like so. I'm just going to add 1/2 inch stitching allowance all around here, just like this, except on the center, which is on fold. So I'll just go ahead and repeat the same thing on the side, and then work on the peplum. So this is what I have left after cutting the back pattern from this orange material. So to cut the peplum, the first thing you do is to measure what you have on on your waistline on the center front pattern. Measure just on the pattern paper, not on the fabric, because what you have on the pattern is what you actually have after joining everything. Okay, so I have 6 inches for mine. Then you're going to do just a little calculation. So the waist circumference is 26 minus 6 inches we measured from the center front, that is 20. We're going to divide that 20 by 6.28, and that would give me 3.1 something, which I will just approximate as 3 inches. Now this 3 inches plus the length that I'm going for the peplum, that is 8 inches plus 1/2 inch stitching allowance. That would be 8.5 plus 3, and that would be 11.5. So this 11.5 is what we'll fold now for both the width and then the length of this peplum. Then I measured my fabric, and I have just 11 inches left, which is okay. I'm just going to manage it like that. Then again, since we are managing this fabric, and it's actually working in our favor, because the peplum is going to have 2 openings. You're going to open it on 2 sides. So I'm just going to fold the 22 inches on this side, so that I'll have 11 inches as the length, and then when I fold the 22 inches, it's going to give me 11 inches. Just the same way you fold to cut your 360 degrees flare. Let me not talk too much. So after getting the fabric folded like this, I have 4 folds. I'm going to start taking the measurement. You can start here if you want, and that way you have just one opening. One part will be folded. But then I'll just start here. I'll mark the 3 inches all around. I'm not adding any allowance, and I don't want to have any pleats on this peplum, so I'm just marking exactly that 3 inches all around this tip here. Then from that 3 inches I have as the radius, I'm going to mark the 8 inches all around too. When I measured it, I have exactly what I'm looking for, which is 5 inches times 4. That would give us 20 inches, which is exactly what you are looking for. I don't want to add any pleats, and there is no point of adding any zipper allowance because I don't want it to go into the center back. You can actually do it to go into the center back if you want, but I want to leave it open like that at the back. So after cutting, this is what we have. We have 2 opening, but we still have our 360 degrees flare. So I'll go ahead and cut the lining of this, and this is what we have. Okay, let me show you all the pieces that we have. I want ahead to cut this sleeve like this. Once you're managing the fabric, that's how this inspiration comes. Okay, there's nothing serious about the sleeve, just your regular sleeve. Then I have the back piece. I cut out lining for the peplum, the 2 of them. Then I pressed a stay on the lining for the side front and also on the main fabric. I did the same thing for the center front. I just cut half lining that will be getting to the half length, from the shoulder to the waistline. That's where the half length, the lining will get. Then I pressed a stay on the bust area and then on the keyhole area, okay, just to stabilize that point. Now what I'm going to do is to unpin the pattern. Then I'm going to join the center front and then the side front. Make sure the under bust are matching up. Then you're going to join it and stop on the keyhole. Do the same thing for this other side, and then on the lining, just to have something like this. Can you see that? So I went ahead to join and give it a good press. Can you see that space there? Then while joining, I skipped, from the waistline. I measured down 8 inches from that point. Then I skipped that part. I started from that 8 inches, that is exactly on the hip line, and then I closed it all the way to the down. If there's need for me to open it the more after everything, I will open the space, but for now I have 8 inches space, which is the same thing we have on our peplum as our peplum length. I also went ahead to fix the zipper and take care of the slit, which is nothing serious. Just go ahead and fix your zipper. There's no dart for the back, there's no lining. I use bias to turn the neckline like that, and that's it. I also joined the sleeve like this. Like I say, this is just a basic sleeve or the regular sleeve, just that I was managing the fabric and I had to join it like that, do that style, and it actually came out beautiful. So what I'm going to do now is to turn the neckline and then the keyhole. I'll place the lining on it, right side facing right side, and I'm going to turn the neckline. And then for the keyhole, we're going to measure again. So I have 6 inches while cutting. Now I'm going to mark 7 inches here because of the shoulder allowance. We added allowance on the shoulder part. I'm just going to mark 7 inches here. Then I'm going to just follow the same shape I have here. Make it sharp at the end, just the same way you end your dart. Go ahead and do that. Then ½ inch on the side, join it like that. Do the same thing for the other side, and then we proceed. Now when you want to join, make sure you're joining on the right side, on your main fabric, your fashion fabric like this. Measure the 7 inches, and then you're just going to just join it. Make sure that you give it that V shape, just give it that V shape, and then you repeat the same thing on the other side. So after stitching, this is what I have. I'll remove the pin. Then I'm going to notch this, just notch it very close to my stitch, but make sure you do not cut through your stitches or the stitch that you have there. Then I'm going to trim this part very thin. Just make sure that the allowance that you have there is very thin. I also give it a notch, just tiny notch there, and then I trimmed it very thinly like that. That way it will be very smooth after ironing. All right. Now I'm going to turn it out like this. Use my scissors just to follow this very tiny space that we have here and turn it to the right side. It's not hard, it's just very simple, okay? But make sure that your scissors is not that sharp so it won't tear your lining or your main fabric, your fashion fabric. So after turning it, this is what I have. I'm just going to go to my ironing table and give it a good press. While you are pressing, make sure that you press it in a way that the orange lining will not be popping out on the right side. After you are done ironing, you should have something like this. And now we go ahead and join the shoulder without wasting much of our time. You're going to make sure that the shoulders are matching up like this. Just use the same follow the shape that you have on the back shoulder, which is actually complete. Then you're going to join it with your half inch. It's very simple. And I'll do the same thing here. And it's important that you stitch on the right side, after pinning it down like this. Why you want to join it is you stitch on this front part. When you stitch and then you stop where the keyhole starts, you back stitch and then you start again here and stitch it again, back stitch too. Then after you're done, it's going to look like this. Okay, you're going to take care of this allowance, this back shoulder allowance here. You can use gum, you can use hemming gum, you can also tack it if you want, but for me I use the UHU gum to take care of it. So after that, I'll just go ahead and close the side, fix my sleeve, and then work on the peplum. Okay, so I will take the lining and place it on the right side like so. I have tons of video on this channel where I show you how to fix your clean in the light way, but I will still show you here. So give a space here, you start stitching and then you give a space like 2 to 3 inches on the side, from where you start. Then you're going to tape down the tip of this crinoline because it is very sharp. You can also use your fabric to sew around that edge just to secure it, but I want to use this I choose to use this paper tape or masking tape. So like I said, you start sewing first, sewing with the allowance, then you're going to place the crinoline like this. Make sure you're placing it like this. Then you stitch from your allowance or your half inch allowance or less than that, and then when you get to where the crinoline is, you stitch on the tip, just very close to the tip or exactly on the tip. And after stitching, you should have something like this. Can you see how close it is to the edge or the tip of the crinoline? Can you see that? Like I said, refer to the video where I show you how to fix the crinoline the right way. I have tons of the videos on this channel. Now I'm going to take my UHU gum like this. So I noticed that I actually joined this thing the wrong way, and this is actually the first time this is happening to me. Not the wrong way anyway, but this crinoline is supposed to be on the main fabric. The crinoline, I was supposed to join it on the main fabric, but now it's standing. I just like the crinoline resting on the lining and not on the main fabric, but this time around it's just going to rest on the main fabric, which is still okay. So I'm going to apply a gum on the other part of the tip of the crinoline like this, just very little amount of gum. Then I will place my hemming gum exactly on that spot which I applied the gum. After that, you're going to turn it to the right side and then you go to your ironing table and steam press. Make sure you steam press so that it will actually glue to your fabric. Okay, and this is actually one of the reasons why you should join your crinoline that way that I showed you, because imagine if I did not join it that way, I would have to lose the crinoline. So after ironing, this is what I have. Can you see that? I want to close one part of this peplum and make sure you're closing it right. Then I will take my dress which I already finished. I just close the side, fix the sleeve, and that's it. And like I said, I use UHU gum on the allowance on the shoulder. Now I'm going to open this opening more, just about half inch upward, because I want it to be on my natural waistline and not down or up. Okay, make sure that what you have on the other side is what you have on the other side just so it's on the same line. Now this is the reason why we notched the waistline while cutting this fabric. This waistline now, you're going to mark it because that's where you will be fixing the peplum. There's no half length joining here. Then on the side too, you're going to hold that part that you notched and then mark on your finger that point that you hold it, and that way you connect it from the back, center back waistline, the part that you notched, to that side. Do the same thing for this other side. Hold it like this and then mark it. Okay, then you connect it. So after doing that, just because we like being accurate, you're going to close your zipper like this and make sure that the two lines are the same. Just make sure they are matching up. Then turn it to the right side and follow the mark that you already have on the side and connect it to that point that you opened. Right? Connect it like this. Make sure your lines are straight, and then you do the same thing for this other side. Now take your peplum, take one of it, and then you're going to make sure that the closed part will be going to the center back like so, and then you start stitching on the line that you marked. Make sure you're not stitching on your zipper allowance, and of course you have to open the zipper before joining this so that it will be easier for you. You join it when you get to the front like so. You're going to after joining, you're going to flip it down like this. You can first stop stitch, hold the two fabric together before closing it. So here I pinned it down just to show you. So after pinning the two fabric, the two orange, the peplum and then the orange part, you're going to hold it like this and then you close it, right? Following the line that you have there previously. Repeat the same thing for the other side, and voila! I've always wanted to have a pink and orange dress, and this is a great opportunity to do that. It actually came out so nice, more than I expected. So this will be the end of our tutorial. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, and I'll see you on my next one. Be good. Bye.